and welcome to Learning Through Television, brought to you by the Beaufort County School District. My name is Norma Evans and I'm a teacher here in Beaufort County. I'm so glad you're here. Today we are doing a science lesson, one of my most favorite subjects. We will be working on the standard Animals and Their Environments, which is a second grade standard. We're going to obtain and communicate information to classify animals based on their physical characteristics. Our I can statement for the day is I can classify animals based on their physical characteristics. You know about I can statements. You use them all day, every day at school, right? All right, so let's begin our lesson. You've learned before about the animal kingdom and the plant kingdom. Those describe the living things on Earth. The plant kingdom contains everything that are plants. And of course the animals are the animal kingdom. So living things have three things in common. They grow, they take in nutrients, that means they eat. They reproduce, that means they have babies, other things just like them. And non-living things do not grow, they don't need nutrients, and they don't reproduce. That goes back to your learning from previous grades. So let's review. Let's play a quick game. To review, I'll show you a picture and you call out if it's a plant or an animal. Are you ready? Let's go. Okay, we have a dolphin. Did you say animal? Of course you did. That's the Spartina or marsh grass. Did you say plant? Palmetto tree, plant. A cardinal, animal. Oh, a beautiful corn snake. Did you say animal? Okay, so today we're going to be classifying living things. And I took those pictures and I made a chart with plants and animals. And I put the pictures in two categories. So we have all our plants, our palmetto tree, our oak tree, our pine trees, our azaleas. And then we have our cardinals, that gray squirrel. We see some fish and a turtle and a toad. So we've categorized things. You know about classifying and categorizing things and grouping things because you do that all day at school too. Like your grade level. That is based on age. Or if you ride a bus, you're grouped based on where you live. All the kids on that bus live near where you live. So that's grouping. So we're going to be working on grouping animals in the animal kingdom. I will be reading parts of this book, which is What is the Animal Kingdom, which is a Bobby Kalman book by Crabtree Publishing. I'm only going to be reading parts of it. You may wish to check it out of your library when the libraries open back up. Bobby Kalman has written a bunch of science and social studies books for Crabtree Publishing. And they're fabulous, so I really encourage you to go read those. All right, so just to review, animal characteristics, they eat, plants or animals, they eat. Well, animals eat animals and animals eat plants. They must breathe, they reproduce, they use their senses to find out about the world around them, and most animals can move their bodies. And we've already talked about what a kingdom is. Now, this book talks about all the animal kingdom. Today, we are just going to focus on a part of the animal kingdom, which is the vertebrates. Here's some vocabulary you may need. A backbone, that's the column of bones along the middle of a vertebrate's back. The backbone is also called the spine or spinal column. We have a spinal column. If you reach back here by your neck and go all the way down, those tiny bones make up your vertebrae, your spine. So we're vertebrates. And then we're going to be talking about cold-blooded, which describes an animal whose body temperature changes with the temperature of the environment. And of course, you need to know what an environment is. I'm sure you already do. It's a place where something lives. So your home is your environment. Think about the environment of a deer or a squirrel or some other animal you know. That's their environment, where they live. Vertebrate is an animal that has a backbone. Warm-blooded describes an animal whose body temperature stays the same no matter what the temperature of the environment. All right, so let's get started. We are going to be talking about vertebrates again, animals with backbones, and they are fish, amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals. I'm going to need you to go get a piece of paper and something to write with so that you will have something to record your learning and your thinking on, okay? So I'm going to count backwards from 10. Go get one piece of paper and something to write with. Are you ready? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You ready? All right, so I'm going to need you to fold your paper. Doesn't matter if you got lined paper or if you've got some blank paper. Fold it in half like a hamburger. Make a good crease there. And then fold it again in half. You should be familiar with this, making the 4 boxes that we do so often in class. All right, now here's where it gets a little tricky. Now my grandson Cade thought this might be a little tricky, and if you don't get it, it's okay. If you take that one corner that's in the center and make a triangle, then when you open it up, you will have 5 areas. But if you didn't get it, that's absolutely fine because I can work around that, all right? So let's label our areas. Oops. There we go. Let's label. We're talking about vertebrates. So I'm going to write vertebrate, because there's more than one. I'm going to underline it because it's our title. And up here in the top right corner, I'm going to write fish. Over here, I'm going to write amphibians. Wow. Amphibians. 4 syllables, long word. Down here, I'm going to write reptiles. And in this corner, I'm going to write birds. And in the center, if you didn't get the fold right, just draw a big circle. It's okay, it doesn't matter. I'm going to write mammals in the center. Okay, now this will be a great way for you to record your learning and your thinking, okay? As we go through, you do not have to write everything I write. Be listening for important information that you think is important. You may choose to write or draw, whatever works best for you. Okay, are you ready? All right, so as a review, be listening for cold-blooded or warm-blooded, because that's a really important characteristic when we're talking about animals. And remember, we're talking about the category of animals known as vertebrates because they have a backbone. Fish. Fish are vertebrates that live in the water. They all swim. Most are cold-blooded. Their skin is covered in scales. Fish have gills that let them breathe underwater. Do you notice how some of the words are bold? You'll find that in a lot of text. And when they bold words, what have you learned? Yeah, those are important words. All right, so let's take our piece of paper that we're taking our notes on, and I'm going to use bullets. Those little dots are bullet points. That means I don't have to write a complete sentence. We don't have to start with a capital, and we don't have to end with punctuation. We're just going to quickly jot down some of our learning. So I'm going to say cold-blooded, or just cold blood. I'm going to add the ED. Then I'm going to do another bullet point. They all swim. They live in water. Of course, because how can you swim if you're not in the water? And their body covering, that's another important thing about animal classification is what their body is covered with. They have scales. And then I'm going to put gills because they breathe through gills. Now remember, yours doesn't have to look exactly like mine. You record your learning and the information you think is important. You ready to go on? And it's okay if you didn't get all of that because we will revisit it periodically throughout the lesson. Amphibians. Amphibians are cold-blooded vertebrates. They begin their life in the water, then they move on to land, They begin breathing through gills, then they develop lungs, and they have smooth skin. Look at the chart at the very bottom, and it gives you the life cycle of an amphibian. You'll see that it starts as an egg, and then it hatches out and looks kind of like a fish. That's when it's breathing through lungs. And then as it develops, arms and legs and their tail disappear or can disappear, then they develop lungs and they start breathing through lungs, and then they crawl up on land. So let's go back to our notes. Under amphibians, I'm going to write cold-blooded. If you, excuse me, if you want to abbreviate some way, write things in a shorter way, you may. They're cold-blooded. They begin life in the water. So I wrote begin water. Then they move to land. Ooh, they have smooth skin. And remember, they have gills, then lungs. You may want to draw a little picture, and I'm not the best artist, and so it's okay if you're not either. I find that pictures really help me remember better. So you may want to draw a quick picture like that. Ready to go on? Reptiles. They're cold-blooded and have leathery skin covered in scales. There are 4 main groups: crocodiles and alligators, turtles and tortoises, lizards and snakes, and the tuatara. Now, here's a fun fact. The tuatara looks like a lizard, but it's not. It's in a class all of its own, and it's the oldest living reptile, type of reptile alive. But they live on small islands around New Zealand, so you probably will not run into one around here. All right, so let's look at our notes. Cold-blooded. They have scales. 4 main types. And we have, I'm going to abbreviate, crocs and gators. Turtles and tortoises. Lizards, snakes, and that very interesting tuataras. Interesting fact about turtles and tortoises, some people get them confused. Turtles live in water and tortoises live on land. Ready? We're going to birds. Birds are warm-blooded. That was new learning for me. I was never really sure. They are the only animals that have feathers. Most birds can fly. They have hollow bones and beaks. Their beak is an important tool. If you look down the right-hand side of that slide, you see the different types of beaks that birds have. That's very important when we start talking about adaptations, because their beaks determine what they can eat. So it's very, very important. And also look at the ostrich. You can see that that's an example of a flightless bird. Now, let's go to our slide. I'm going to write warm-blooded. They have feathers. Remember, those are the only animals that have feathers. They fly, and then in parentheses, I'm going to write most. They have hollow bones. I wonder why their bones need to be hollow. I think that's an important fact about birds. Think about why their bones should be hollow. And then they have beaks. Always remember how important the structure of a bird's beak is. All right, and our last category, mammals. Look at those pictures. Mammals are warm-blooded. They have hair or fur on their bodies. Females produce milk for their young, and all mammals are born live, not hatched from eggs. Now look at those pictures. Some of those are my pets. But look at in the top corner. See those boys? Yeah, we're mammals too. Those are my grandchildren. But look at that whale. That could be confusing because we said fish swim. Well, some mammals swim too. Whales, dolphins, manatees. They're mammals that live in the water. All right, so let's take our notes. Under mammals, they're warm-blooded. They have fur or hair. They produce milk for their babies. And they're born live, not eggs. So you have a great record of your learning of the 5 different classifications of vertebrates right here. Let's revisit our standard and our I can statement. So we were getting information about animals based on their physical characteristics. We can, in our I can statement was, I can classify animals based on their characteristics. So let's check your learning. I'm going to show some pictures, and I want you to look at their physical characteristics and tell me if they are an amphibian, reptile, fish, bird, or mammal based on their physical characteristics. You ready? Oh, I see fur. With this lion, I see it with its baby, so it would definitely be a mammal. You're right. You ready for the next one? Ooh, that's got smooth skin. That's a newt. It's got smooth, shiny skin. Did you say amphibian? Absolutely right. Our next one is a big old tortoise. You see that shell and those scaly legs? You said reptile, right? Absolutely right. Look at that majestic eagle. That's the symbol of our nation. I see a beak and feathers, so it's definitely it's a bird. Oh, look at that. I see fins and scales. It's in the water. Got to be a fish. Oh, look at that. Penguins. I see wings and beaks. They have feathers. That's another example of flightless. Yeah, birds. Oh, I used to have an iguana. Look at that scaly skin. Did you say reptile? You're absolutely right. Great learning, great thinking. All right. Look at that. Our last one, we have monkeys. I see fur. I see a baby with its mommy, so I'm pretty sure that mommy is producing milk. So it's got to be a mammal, right? You're absolutely right. Now, what I'd like for you to do is turn your paper over to the back, and hopefully you didn't write in Sharpie like I did and you can't see. But if you did, just get another piece of paper or something and try to list as many animals or draw pictures of as many animals as you can under the correct category. Okay, so for example, I use pictures from the presentation. So we have our fish, we have our amphibians, our mammals, our reptiles, and our birds. Are there some other animals you can think of and where they belong? Think about some of our previous lessons. How about Mother Bruce, that book? The main character, the protagonist, was a bear. Where would bear go? Yeah, he's a mammal. And then he became the mother to geese. Where would geese belong? Absolutely right, they're birds. And how about the other lesson, that click, clack, moo, cows, that type? Cows, big clue. They give us milk, so they are, you're right, they're mammals. And in that book too, there was also a duck. Beak, feathers, gotta be a bird. What other animals are you thinking about? How about a hippo? Yep, that would be a mammal. How about tuna? That kind of goes right, has its name right in it, tuna fish. You're absolutely right. How about a shark? Yeah, that's a fish too. How about a crocodile? That would definitely be a reptile. You're absolutely right. Ask your brother, your sister, your cousins, your moms, your dads, grandmas, anybody who lives in your house, if they can think of an animal and tell you what classification they fall into. It's a fun thing to do. Now, I hope you had a great time learning, and you've learned a lot. Moms and dads, take time to name and notice plants and animals when you're outside. This is a great way to continue learning in a fun way. Also, discuss animal to animal and animal to plant connections in the environment, like what was discussed in a previous lesson. And when you're reading books, they don't have to be science books. Reach beyond the text and talk about plants and animals within the text and how they interact with their environments. You can take virtual field trips. There are so many available online and on TV. One of my most favorites is the Cincinnati Zoo and Botanical Gardens on Facebook. Ask your mom and dad to join that, and every day at 3 o'clock, I believe it is, they do a virtual field trip, and also you can keep up with one of my most favorite animals, Fiona the hippo. Locally, you can take a walk through the Cypress Wetlands Nature Park in Port Royal, or you can go on the Spanish Moss Trail. I go there a lot, and there's a lot of wildlife, excuse me, to be seen there. I've seen deer and rabbits and so many insects and things. You can also go to the beach when it opens, or go to the sands in Port Royal. Lots and lots of different types of wildlife there to observe and learn from. One of my most favorite places is the Savannah Wildlife Refuge, and they've got lots of alligators and birds and butterflies that you can look at. Remember, we're all connected and part of nature, so go out and enjoy it. Be safe. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you learned a lot. Remember, this is Teaching Through Television, brought to you by the Beaufort County School District. I would love to thank Bobby Kalman and the Crabtree Publishing for permission to use their wonderful book. Remember, when libraries open, please go check out some more of their resources. Remember to be safe, keep reading, and keep learning, and thank you for tuning in.